Good morning. Happy Saturday to you guys. I hope you guys are doing well. How are you feeling this morning? I am feeling, I think I'm feeling a little sleepy still. I got up and I was like, do I really want to get up yet? And so I laid back down and turned my alarm on. I hollered through the house at Alexa, telling her to set an alarm. And then I felt a little bit better with getting up this morning. And so it's my second go at morning. How are you feeling this morning? Are you guys using your feeling words? Wida, who's joined us a couple of the mornings, is has been focusing on her feeling words and really checking herself and giving folks a daily check-in on how they're feeling. And hopefully you are challenging yourself to use your feeling words. Well, this morning, good morning, Mayor. I see you this morning. um, After today's co-working time, we will have a brief exhale time over on Google Meet. And after we go into silent mode, I'll also put the link here in the chat. If you'd like to join us, that'll be at 8 o'clock Ecuador time. Since that's the time my world revolves around, that's equivalent of Central Time Zone for this half of the year, while you guys are on daylight savings time. So that would be 9 o'clock in Eastern Time Zone. So 8 o'clock Ecuador time at the end of this time. Good morning, Magnificent. This morning, I thought I would share another poem from the most recent work that I've put out called Coming Home. And then we'll go through briefly step 3. I want to make sure that before we leave this time together, that you've got the information on how to use these tools. I appreciate you purchasing the book, but the real goal is for you to use these tools and hopefully find value as you move into a deeper um, commitment to your own healing journey. So, step 3 will be what I'll focus on just for a brief few minutes. And so this morning, I am sharing a piece called Coming Home, taking off the mask and returning to our skin. Good morning, Kimberly. Coming home isn't about location. It's not a street address, a childhood town, a flag, or a family name. It's deeper than that. It's a reunion with self, a reckoning with truth, a falling out of performance, and falling into skin. We've been taught to live in costumes, to wear masks that smile on cue, that shrink when needed, that survive the room but abandon the soul. We become experts at hiding in plain sight. Paul Laurence Dunbar said, "We wear the mask that grins and lies." And he was right. Some of us got tired of carrying lies in our mouth while our spirit screamed underneath. Some of us couldn't breathe anymore inside the disguise. Some of us decided that the risk of being seen was less dangerous than the cost of staying hidden. So we started to come home. We started peeling off the expectations, the church clothes, the corporate scripts, the family roles we never auditioned for but got cast in anyway. We stripped it down to the essence, to breath, to truth. We started remembering who we were before the world told us what we needed to be to survive. Coming home isn't soft. It isn't clean. It's messy. It's grief-soaked. It's terrifying. But it is scared. Because when you come home, you meet yourself again, and this time you don't flinch. You forgive the parts that lied to stay safe. You thank the mask for the service. and then you bury them with honor, not shame. You relearn the language of your own emotions. You let your skin be skin again, not armor, not billboard, just you. And when you come home, the house doesn't look like the one they promised. It looks better because it's honest and healing and filled with mirrors that finally tell the truth. If you've ever looked in the mirror and whispered, I'm tired of hiding, you're already on the way. If you've ever spoken a truth that cost you everything fake, you've already arrived. This is not exile. This is return, not to the past, but to the part of you that was never broken. That is what it means to come home, and we will keep the porch light on for you. And so that piece is called Coming Home, taking off the mask and returning to our skin. And hopefully there's parts of that that you too can identify with. Good morning. Mayor is feeling grateful and strong and happy. Excellent. How are you, rest of you feeling if you haven't already chimed in? And then step 3. Let me grab my book because it is not sitting right next to me. Pause. Thank you for your patience. I thought I was ready, then I wasn't. Chapter 19, I think. Chapter 19 is where we find step 3, feeling the reality of how you survived. Step 3 is not a hard step. None of them are hard steps as far as understanding, but they require your presence. They require your mindfulness. In step 3, you simply take the survival responses, the what did I do? How did I survive this situation from step 2? And you list those things. I stopped asking for help. I convinced myself I didn't care. I decided not to speak up again. I started keeping secrets. I became the fixer to earn the love. Whatever those things are that you did, I stayed silent. I cried. It's taking and listing those, and then it's sitting with that. It's saying, this is what I did to survive. These are the masks sometimes. These are the coping strategies sometimes. Sometimes these are the drugs of choice, the behavioral drugs of choice. And some of those behaviors may include the substances that we typically think of when we think of addiction or we think of coping. And it's to sit with that. This is a great time to pull up your feeling wheels or your word lists, whatever tools you found on the internet to use or tools that you have from other systems that you may be familiar with. It's going through those lists of words to say, are any of these the things I'm feeling? As I think about the costs, the responses that I made, the behaviors that I made, the energy I put into those behaviors, and to give space for those emotions, to give space to feel exactly what you feel, to give space to putting words to what you're feeling. Not only is it healing, it's practice, not just for your trauma work, but practice for doing life. How well in community are we able to explain what we're feeling, what we're thinking to others? In today's times, the words that we use to explain that skill, and that's an important skill for a sustainable community, we call it emotional intelligence. Do you have the skills to be able to communicate to someone outside of your mind what you're thinking or what you're feeling? In my personal value system, reading other people's minds is not a value that I hold on to. There's very few people that I'll guess how they're feeling. My grandson, are you feeling sad today? Help put words to it. But in my interactions in life, I don't want to carry the burden of having to guess what other people are thinking and feeling. And in community, if we're being honest, do you want that responsibility for other people that you come in contact with? That opens up the door for being able to have misunderstandings. And part of these tools give us the opportunity to reduce the possibility of having misunderstandings in our relationships with each other. And I think that's a good thing to have. How do we make it so that we don't, or we minimize the misunderstandings? I learned to communicate very clearly about what I want other people to know about me. If I want you to know how I'm feeling, can I tell you? Mayor said, I'm feeling grateful and strong and happy. Our social systems sometimes teach us how to be dishonest and to wear the masks. My grandmother was a master of responses. Depending on what time in her life period she was on, what cycle she was, you'd say, how are you doing? And she'd say, blessed and highly favored. And then you'd ask her how she's doing. She went through a whole phase where it was, Maranatha, the Lord is coming. That was her response. How you doing? Maranatha, the Lord is coming. She had responses. They were programmed kind of responses. They were habit kind of responses. And as the fad changed, sometimes the responses did. But most of us know, we've been socialized to know, when someone says, how are you doing? We all know that the answer is, as if it were on a worksheet with a blank, good. Life can be in turmoil. Our heads hurting, the feet hurting, the backs hurting, the pockets hurting. Life is hurting. My relationships are hurting. My heart is hurting. And I'm tired and a little bit hungry. And yet the response that many of us have practiced is good. And so we've been socialized to wear those masks and be dishonest. And this step says, let's just sit with it. Let's see what comes up. And let's just let it be. So step 3 is not a difficult step, but it asks you, it begs you for your presence. It begs you to consider the life energy of the situations in our life. Because sometimes we undervalue what situations in life have cost us. I just got through it. It wasn't no big thing. And sometimes sitting with it helps us to realize the appropriate cost associated with our behaviors, what it really took to be able to survive the real life trauma that has come to many of our lives in one form or another, big and small. Big trauma, we think about the big words. There's a new indicator that really irritates me that came out some years back about adverse childhood, the ACE. It was a worksheet. If you had these added up, that's your trauma profile. And I was like, that doesn't tell the whole story. Is it a good start? It's a good start. But that does not tell the whole story. It dismisses that trauma is a whole bunch of big and little things. In my experience, it was the very little things that I realized were huge. Huge roots of things that impacted me for decades. Some little situation that happened at school or in family or in community, sometimes at an early age. Something that on the outside, someone might say, oh, that was a little thing. And then you realize it was huge. One of the things that comes to mind when I think about that, as a child, probably 4, some of the kids in the youth group that my mother was the leader of teased me and said that I had a crush on someone. and laughed. And in my healing journey, I realized that that was the hinge pin on some really, really deep trauma that lasted for decades. That was insignificant. Just the little jokes that we make with little kids sometimes. And then to realize that little joke cost me 40 years of peace in that particular area. What seemed small had a lasting impact to the point that I still remember it today, almost 50 years later. And so this is the opportunity to be able to do that, honoring, just to honor the journey. Any questions on that? The step is about sitting with it, accepting it. Read those words. Hopefully, a support person that you're doing your Sankofa circle steps with after each of these steps. But if not, sit in front of a mirror and read to yourself. Read that list. Look yourself in the eye. I encourage you, if you do not have a healing support person or healing support network that you have created, if you get nothing else out of this 30-day challenge, find those people that feel safe enough for you to share your truth, for you to speak your truth, to put words to it, because when you do that, it is no longer a secret. It is no longer hidden in those places. It's about reckoning and coming to the ability to speak truth in your own life. And so I encourage you not to overlook that step. In each of your steps in your worksheet pages, there's a space for you to honor that step. Did I do it? Have I found a person in my support network that is a safe place? Ask them if they've got the emotional space to hold space for you. Honor that. But I want you to challenge yourself to make sure that you have people, at least one person, that you can be honest with. And if you don't have that person in your life, reach out to one of the other people in this group that's committing to the same healing journey you're committed to. That journey to be honest with myself, to find my true self, to come back home to that person in love, not in judgment, not in criticism, but in love. That's what I got for you this morning. Check in, see. Anyone else want to share what they're feeling today? Thank you for letting me share this morning. Any other check-ins today? How are you guys doing in your cycling? Have you guys gotten to 5B on any cycles that you started yet? Are you making the loop? Are you coming in full circle? Are you learning some things about yourself in this process? I hope so. Anyone else have anything to share before we go into quiet co-working time this morning? Happy Saturday to all of you. Thank you for joining us and holding space for each other. Feeling empowered and anxious. I think before I leave, I'll share one just practical tidbit of how this is playing out in my life this week. Several times. Excellent. Part of this is about reshaping or reaffirming my values. I had a conversation in message with a friend on Instagram, and we were talking about values. Feeling grateful, appreciative, and needed. Very nice. Thank you for sharing. One of the areas that I talked about this week with that friend was about anxiety, feeling anxious about some things. And I said, are you feeling anxious about things that are values that you don't actually hold on to? Are you using standards of success that other people have dictated? Have you taken time to go through the steps? And I suggested go through step 1 and step 2 and see what starts coming up for you. Is the anxiety tied to a value that you not even put no energy into, but yet you are? And we talked about the value of the standards of success in our life. And this was maybe the day before yesterday. And then yesterday it played out in my life for real, as if life is the curriculum and it reinforced the lesson for me. I have a friend, she's 92. She and I met over me talking salty to her. In love, in love. When we met, we were at a breakfast of immigrants trying to get our health insurance together. And she and I were sitting across from each other and we struck up a conversation. She was 91 at the time, and the conversation led to passions. And she said she's been working on this book for years. And she said she wanted to finish it, and I'm just nosy. And she invited me into the conversation, so I just asked what I want to ask. And I said, do you really want to finish it? In my mind, I'm thinking, because at 91, there's more years behind you than ahead of you. And she says yes, and it felt sincere. And I said to her as gently as I could, I said, didn't you tell me you're 91 years old? When are you going to finish this book? She told me how many years she's been working on it. The manuscript's done. She just needs to finish editing it. And I said, no, let's stop here. Let's not go on. Because I could be the nice surface level, oh, that's so nice, and keep it moving. But my work is about, are you living your purpose and your passions? Is it something you really want to do? She says, yes. And I said, what's stopping you? Fear, guilt, or insecurity? Gangster grannies call it the FIGs. The fear, insecurity, and guilt that oftentimes lead us to self-sabotaging behavior. We don't do the stuff we said we want to do. And she says, I don't know how to finish it. I said, girl, I ain't help you with that. We can put that thing on Amazon. And she wanted her grandchildren to be able to see this book finished. I said, I know how to do that, and I'll help you. I'm a Black woman. She's of the lighter persuasion. My hair is kinky, her hair is not. But I understand passion, wanting to do something and not being able to. And she said it was just the fear and insecurity of not knowing how. I said, if you finish the editing, I'll help you do that part. I know how. And she and I finished the formatting. I set a date to go over and help her take the vision of the cover and put it into real time. And her book got published on where grandchildren could go buy it. And I said, I'm going to go buy a copy of it. And so we've been talking. We both have had life stuff going on, busyness and my foot injury and her dental appointments. And we finally connected for lunch. And I said, I'm coming so that I can get an autographed copy of this book. And so I went with my handy dandy backpack and my book over to her house because we had planned a lunch date. And I was going to her house to pick her up. And she says, do you really want me to sign it? And I said, uh-huh. She said, let me go get my good pen. I said, yes, get your good pen, because I don't want to be shortchanged. In no way, get your good pen, because I want to be able to say I got an autographed copy of this book. And I thought back to that conversation I was having about the measure of success. Let somebody tell me they got a, first edition autographed copy of some whoop, whoop, whoop book. And I promise you, let them come my way. And I'll say, me too, me too. Do you know that I have an autographed copy of Jeannie Frost's very first novel called Missing? Look here, it's on my shelf. And she signed it and inscribed it with her good pen, because I realized that is my standard of success. Having a little old lady who gives me joy, give me the time of day so that I can come and carry on such foolishness like challenging her words, challenging whether or not she really wants what she says she wants, and then seeing that in real time as she's writing a note and autographing my first edition copy of her very first book. And I realized I left South Carolina, and the motto of South Carolina says, get your mind right and your resources ready. But the second part of that motto says, if there's still breath, there's hope. This process has helped me become much clearer on what I believe, on the values and beliefs and expectations for my life, on freeing me from some of those masks and standards that no longer fit me. Standards for success. Yesterday was a good day because I got to go spend time with this friend, for her to share love with me and me to give it back, for us to carry out our antics, and her son is the accomplice. Get us to the taxi, get us to the restaurant, help us have this play date, and all of the friends that we see along the way. And so this is about coming home to yourself, to your truth, to what your values really are, what really matters to you in life, and then living that life fully. So hopefully you're seeing that in your life. Let's see. Yay to mentally magnificent on her 5B cycles. Keep going. Mayor says it's the small things from decades ago that I realized were impactful and I'm healing from. Yes, they cost. Learning so much about myself and loving it. Yes. Magnificence, feeling grateful and appreciative and needed. Kimberly, disappointed that you've not yet completed 5B. Make sure that's not judgmental because we ain't got no pace. Check that value. You got enough time. Take it at your pace. Overwhelmed with the figs. Yeah. Feeling overwhelmed is real. Thank you all for sharing. If you'd like to join in the group Exhale at 8, feel free at the end of this time to jump over to Google Meet. We will meet there so that we can have a conversation instead of this monologue that uh, YouTube lets me do, because I still haven't figured out how to do it the other way quite well. So I just stick with what I know so I don't have technical difficulties at dark 30 in the morning. All right, guys, thanks for joining me this morning. Be encouraged. Kimberly, be encouraged. This is the work. Showing up, being here, thinking about it is the work. Honor that. Honor that. And then do the work. And then do the work. I don't want to dismiss that part. And then do the work. Do the work. And see if that overwhelmed feeling doesn't change to something else. Maybe relief. Maybe a greater peace. All right, guys, I will see you at 8 o'clock Ecuador time over in Google Meet. If you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I'll keep an eye on that while I work on my crochet because Grandma Blanket is in blanket mode. There's a link to one of the training videos at the top of this chat. And if someone is coming in after our live time, if you don't have a copy of the book, feel free to go to nowastedtime.com or the International Welcome Center site, globalundergroundrailroad.com, and you can purchase the digital copy there, or you can purchase a print copy on Amazon. All right, everyone, have a great weekend. Have a great Saturday. You should have it on your calendar. Check your calendar and see if you have the calendar link. I'm going to put the link also here in chat in just a moment. All right, have a great day. I'm going to go into silent work mode and I'll grab that Google Meet link and put it in the chat box. Just want to thank everyone for coming and joining in this time together and honor the work of healing. If you'd like more information about the work behind this healing challenge, you can visit nowastedtime.com. You can also find more information about the International Welcome Center by visiting globalundergroundrailroad.com. You can purchase the book Revolution Must Come to Our House, Our Home on either of the sites. You can also find the print copy. That's for the digital version. The print copy is available on Amazon. We thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow, day number, I believe, 27 of our 30-day healing challenge. For those that may want to join us in dialogue and conversation, the link is in the chat. Feel free to join us in just a few minutes on Google Meet, and we'll be able to have more of a two-way conversation. Look forward to seeing you, same place, time in the morning. Take care. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.